Will Lucas here, Black Tech, Green Money. It's so good to be with you guys for another episode. I have a special guest today. I've been really looking forward to this interview. Roland Martin is not just a journalist. He's a media entrepreneur, CEO, and digital pioneer who spent decades building his own lane in the news industry. He's best known for host and managing editor of Roland Martin Unfiltered and founder of the Black Star Network. He's turned decades of experience in mainstream media into a powerful independent platform reaching millions daily. Welcome, Mr. Martin.
All right, glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So I want to start talking about your media savvy here, your entrepreneurial savvy. When you started building your own platforms, what was the gap that you saw in the marketplace, and how did those gaps inform the strategy for how you built it?
Well, first and foremost, if I go back to, you have multiple iterations. So the current one really was when TV One canceled my show News One Now, and as Alfred Liggins was telling me why he was canceling the show, he was refinancing the company's debt and need to make a number of cuts. And literally, as he was talking, I was already planning what I was going to do. I already saw where we were headed in terms of digital media. And for people to understand, I've always been 8 to 10 years ahead, and because I'm a student of the business, studying where we were going. I was studying cord cutting. I was seeing what was happening with linear television, broadcast, and cable, as well as what was happening with terrestrial radio. December 2019, Tom Joyner was retiring. And I said that, Black America is going to be significantly hurt because we're not going to have that major presence on the air for the 2020 election. And TV One offered me a new 3-year contract that kept the salary the same, with $330,000, and I said no. And I remember my agent at the time, Mark Watt, saying, "Hey, man, let's take this deal as easy money." I said, "No, we're not." Because what I also understood was that they could easily pay me the $27,500 a month and never do any type of programming. And I kept saying, well, my concern was if we don't do any programming, if we don't do anything, because I had that before when I had Washington Watch. I hosted the show. There were 40 episodes a year. And then in the contract, I was to do 4 primetime specials. Yeah. And I think it was paying me $10,000 a special. So a couple of the years we did it, but then the other 2 years, they just paid me the 40 grand. It was cheaper to pay me than to actually do the production. And so I said no to the deal because that was the gap when I studied what was happening in radio. And to this day, and I don't care what anybody says, and it's no disrespect to anybody out there, but if you take what the Breakfast Club does, Ricky Smiley, D.L. Hughley, Steve Harvey, Erica Campbell, you put all of these shows together, all of these syndicated shows, they do not equal the news and information that we were getting on a daily basis from the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Mm-hmm. And so that was what I saw, what I understood. And then, of course, what then happens? People were telling me, man, you should do a podcast. Well, people don't realize I launched the first Black news source audio podcast, the Chicago Defender, in 2005. I launched the first Black video podcast in 2006, Black news video podcast 2006 at the Chicago Defender. And so I saw where we were. So taking all those pieces, I said we have to do this. And here's what was crazy. YouTube was funding a lot of stuff, and I reached out. I was told by the YouTube folks, Black news is not going to work.
Interesting.
So they told me. And I went, okay, I'm going to show you how it works. And so here we are today, going from, and when I really focused, I had a YouTube channel for years, but I really didn't do much with it because we were prohibited from putting content on the channel, content up because of the TV One cable deal. So August or September 2017, I had about 72,000 YouTube subscribers. Again, I really did nothing. We posted some stuff, but that was no focus. When I launched on September 4, 2018, we had 157,000 subscribers. And as I sit here today and I look at where we are today, we're sitting at 1,868,170.
It's beautiful.
And
It's
so,
beautiful.
and we're every week we're in the YouTube Top 100 podcast.
Yeah.
And we're the only black news show in the top 100. Everybody else black is entertainment and sport. So YouTube was wrong. A bunch of other people were wrong. So the audience was there. They simply were not being served properly. And that was the lane.
Yes, that's amazing. So I think about you've mentioned a couple risks you took there in that story. And it sounds to me, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like you were more focused. I need to get this in front of as many people as possible, and the ownership might have been secondary, but was ownership forefront?
No, it was the same. They want to stay on the same level. So I understood, again, the audience was there. The money was there. And this was the literal conversation I had with Mark Watts. And again, this was June 2018. We had met in March 2018. We had come off doing the MLK, the 50th anniversary of his assassination. And what was interesting about that, I'll never forget. So the show gets canceled in December. I think it was December 9th, 2017. And so the 50th was April 4th. And we had already shot some stuff. And I was like, hey, I'm sending them emails. Hey, are we going to do that? We're going to do this. 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 And I wasn't getting any feedback.
Yeah.
So I decided on my own to spend 30 grand of my own money. And I flew to Stanford to interview Clarence Jones, Dr. King's attorney. I had a speech in Buffalo. And then I went to Ithaca, New York, and sat down with Dorothy Cotton. I went to Memphis to meet with Sam, to Bill Lucy, and I scheduled all these different interviews, and funded them myself, because I understood the importance of the stories. But here was the other thing: I now had that as library content, and so what then happens is when I'm meeting with them, they're not committing to covering stuff. So I was like, all right, and this is what I told Mark. Mark is my fraternity brother. We go back to when I was in high school senior. I said to Mark, Mark, I'm 49 years old. I said, and I am at the peak of, this is how I looked at it, the peak of knowledge, relationships, experience, and energy. And I said, if I don't do this right now, I said, what if I don't do it now? I likely never will. And I don't know of anybody black who is willing to do this. So I have to do this.
Yeah.
So I understood there was a business there. I understood there was an audience there, but the old adage, if you build it, they will come, that had to happen. Somebody had to make the decision. So it wasn't about, hey, let's try to go. People were like, man, I wish you go back to CNN and MSNBC. No interest. Because here was a lesson I learned even there. When I was at CNN, they couldn't get anybody to interview Winnie Mandela. She was coming to town, Birmingham, Alabama. So they came to me. I was like, yeah, sure. So I go to Birmingham, interview Winnie Mandela, had about 20, 25 minutes. So a week later, I get a phone call. And they go, hey, this is the people in Atlanta. We'll look at the interview. Why didn't you ask her about the trial and this and this? And I said, why in the hell y'all didn't interview her? I asked her what I wanted to ask her. I said, why in the hell y'all didn't ask her? They then said, we're not going to run the interview. I said, okay. I went to John Klein, who was the president of CNN US. I went to his office. I said, hey, your folks in Atlanta ain't going to run the Winnie Mandela interview. So can you just give it to me? Give me permission, give it to me. And I'm going to run it on my TV One show. John was like, yeah, cool. When I went to DC, we went to the CNN Bureau. They dubbed the interview over because it was on this different tape. Dubbed it, handed to us. We ran it on the show. And here's the deal. March 2018, I'm in Memphis 1 month before the commemoration of the assassination. Winnie Mandela dies. And I'm there. And I hit my guy. I said, we're going to restream it. I interviewed Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. I interviewed Randall Robinson about Winnie Mandela, and we restreamed that. The only reason you can see my interview with Winnie Mandela was because I had a black-owned media platform where I could air it, And if I didn't have that, to this CNN, that thing will be sitting on a tape
collecting dust
on the shelf at CNN, and no one have ever seen it. And that's the difference when you, first of all, own a platform to be able to distribute a message.
Man, there's so much there. I want to dig in. I want to lay a little bit more foundation first. So all right, you decide I'm going to do this on my own. For the people out there who are saying, you know,
No. I didn't decide to do it on my own.
Okay.
I went to every major black media company.
Oh, wow.
And none of them wanted to partner. I went to them. I understood the business. This is sort of how I saw. First of all, you got to take it back even further. When I had the TV One show, I had heard. I was talking to people that the show was in jeopardy, and I said, okay. So I sent a proposal, and so here's what happened. This is why you have to be a student of the business.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, you know, how can we re-engineer this? How can we look at this differently? And so I remember Dish Nation. I was sitting there and I was watching it, and this one, Ricky Smiley was a part of it. And so it was airing on TV One. But then I saw Dish Nation was online. So I went to our affiliate person. I said, I got a question for you. I'm curious. How is Dish Nation? Because I knew that we couldn't stream. We had limits of what we could stream online to air on TV One. I said, how are we able to do this? And they said, oh, we have the cable rights. So you got cable rights, you got broadcast rights, you've got digital rights, and then of course international rights are separate. They said, but we have the cable rights. That's why it's online. And I went, bingo. So this is what I did. I put a proposal together, and I said, okay, the problem that we have with News One now is that it's on TV One. We're not marketing it outside the channel. We have a loyal audience, but it's too small. And they were doing $1 million in advertising a year. The show was costing $4 to $5 million. So I said, okay, and I knew there was a digital audience. So the proposal I sent them was, why don't y'all let me take ownership of the show? I'm gonna make it a digital show. You can pay me a lot. So it was costing you $5. You can pay me a licensing fee of 3.5, 3, or 2.5 million. I will produce the show, and we have a partnership where we're able to sell the digital sale piece. You already have the infrastructure, and then that can be a rev share. They never responded to the proposal. Show gets canceled. When I decided to launch this, I gave them another proposal. Why don't you, I took to Radio One. Why don't you partner with me with what I'm launching? I said, you can invest $500,000. And this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna deliver. We could do a rev share on the advertising, no interest. I talked to Black Enterprise. I talked to Rich Dennis over at Essence. I remember Morgan and I had a conversation at Blavity. I remember, and it was just, I talked to numerous people because I understood all of these entities already had the ad infrastructure. They had the ad infrastructure, the back end infrastructure, and none of them were even doing what I was doing. So my whole deal was, this is the value add proposition. You need to be able to sell more units. And so here's how we can utilize streaming. Nobody wanted to partner. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I went ahead and did it myself. But I was trying to find a black media partner, and no one wanted to. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And that's what we did.
So I've seen you in person, and I love this. You told this story last time I saw you at the University of Toledo doing a talk last year. And you talked about the bag that you carry with you everywhere you go. And in that bag is your H6 Zoom recorder or whatever Zoom recorder you have, your cameras and et cetera. And there are so many people who still today believe that they need all this equipment to put out content. Can you talk about the thinking and then the actual equipment you need?
Well, again, the problem for so many people is the problem for so many people is they don't understand the infrastructure. We're going to do something. Okay, we're going to do something right here. So just give me 1 second, because I need to just give me 1 second. All right, perfect. All right. So you just asked the question about in terms of okay, how we do this thing, how it's done, and a lot of people don't understand. So here's a perfect example. Yesterday I was doing a show. I was in Dallas, and it was a golf tournament that Nancy Lieberman Klein has, and so I was invited to play in it. But here's the whole deal. I'm doing it, but I'm also on the road. I'm also, traveling. So I'm like, okay, the golf, because we had a storm. Normally I would have done the show from my hotel room. A storm hit Dallas. So the golf tournament didn't start at 9, it started at 11. I was like, damn. So what ended up happening was I had to do the show from the course because I couldn't because we finished at 4:15.
Yeah.
So as a result, by having what you just described, then this is what that looked like. This is the literal setup right here.
I love it.
Where you see right there.
I love it.
The 4 lights, the return monitor. You see the live view. You see right there. And again, golf. The golf course is my backdrop.
Yeah.
You're seeing that's the whole setup right there. All of that stuff is in literally a 22-inch carry-on case. And because again, what you have to understand is you have to think efficient. You have to think, okay, it's just me. And so how can I distill this thing down? How can I be as small as possible? How can I be able to do this? And so you'll see right here, I was in Wisconsin. This is the look in a hotel room. I carry 4 LED lights. A lot of times when you're traveling, the walls are bare.
Yeah.
Luckily, you got color in this room. Normally, sometimes hotel rooms got white walls.
That's right.
Well, guess what? I bounced the light off of the wall. Now all of a sudden, I've given the show color. And so that's 4 25-watt LED lights. They fit in an Amazon 8-inch neoprene bag. Boom, right there. They fit right in. And so again, it's when you're thinking. I was about 3 weeks ago. I had a keynote speech in Milwaukee, and the problem was a noon speech. I couldn't fly out to get back to the studio in time. So, and I did this last year, so this wasn't the first time. And I said, okay, drive me to Chicago. I'm gonna catch a 9 p.m. flight back to DC. I'll do my show from Chicago O'Hare Airport. Now somebody's like, the hell? Yeah, we're gonna do the show from the airport. So this happened. So I find me a spot. I'm in the airport.
Look at this.
Same setup. So I got portable power. I got my 4 lights. I got my camera. I got my live view, my return monitor.
In the middle of the hall. This is the middle of the hall.
Just in the corner.
Wow.
I got my Omni charge. You see a teleprompter there. You see the live view. You see my portable power because I wasn't trying to run extension cords all over the place. So when you understand how the technology works, then you understand how you can move. And again, you're not trying to sit here and be crazy with it. And so I know somebody's sitting there going, man, you're carrying a lot. Nope, this is literally it right here. This is 1/2 of the 22-inch carry-on, and this is the other side of the 22-inch carry-on. Everything that I need to broadcast is in that bag.
Wow.
So the whole thinking for me is constantly, so let's just take audio. Well, I used to have the lavalier microphone, the XLR coming from the camera. Well, guess what? DJI comes up with their wireless microphones. Now I'm wireless. Now I can plug it straight in. Now I'm not dealing with frequencies. Now I'm not running a cable. Plus that microphone has like 100-foot range.
Yeah.
My cable can't do that. So how my brain works, I'm constantly trying to think of, okay, how more efficient, how smaller can you be? And so even as I'm sitting right here, the reason I'm able to show you what I'm showing, I have an ATM mini switcher. Well, I can also, now this is a little bit more equipment, so it can't fit in the bag, so I got to have it through my backpack, but I have another 8-10 minute switcher. So a lot of times when I'm on the road, I may not have time. I shot some video. I can't upload it to to Dropbox, and my staff can download it. But if I have my switcher with me, boom, just what I just did here, I can play my video right there from the phone or from my iPad. I can show the photo. I pull up live tweets on the show as well, because I'm sitting here coordinating. So when you understand technology, and when you just step back, and now it's a question of, okay, just the different pieces. So for me, it's how can you be small, nimble, efficient? And so that same portable suitcase, it goes wherever I go. But I gave a speech in Indianapolis on Sunday. I was at church. I said, hey, are y'all live streaming this? No. Are y'all recording this? Yes. I got to the place. I said, let me look at your camera. You got an SDI out? You do. Okay, cool. I need an SDI out. I set my live streaming, my live U box up. Didn't have to put my camera up. Connected. I then live stream my speech from their event, and again, utilizing their equipment. I've done that numerous times. And so when you understand, people got to realize I went to communications high school, Jack Hayes High School, Madison School of Communications. So I learned behind the camera. I didn't even want to do in front of the camera, but I learned behind the camera how all the pieces work. And so once you do that, now you understand the technology. Now you understand just, sort of how these things work. And so then when you begin to realize, and it's just some basic things that people don't even understand. So even if we were testing something in our studio, so you take, you give an example, you just take, so this is the iPhone. And we had this, I think a Hollyland connected, because we wanted to be able to use the phone for the cinematic look. Well, the problem is we was like, okay, fine. Well, this is the problem here with the iPhone. So all the markings are still on here. Then we realized with the Blackmagic app, you can actually remove the markings. Now you can do something different. So I am in a constant, and this is people don't understand, and people stop me and they say, man, I can't believe you don't have somebody who's not doing that stuff. I said, why in the hell am I? See, this is also people don't understand business. Why am I gonna pay somebody the daily rate, a plane ticket, a hotel room, per diem to set my equipment up, and it takes me 15 minutes? That's just dumb business. So if I'm traveling by myself, I don't need to travel somebody with me to set my camera up. I can do it. So, and I travel a lot, so that's an added expense. So I am constantly trying to learn. I am constantly trying to see what's the next thing, what can we do next? How does this work? And I'm looking at pieces of equipment. I'm looking at lights and cameras and audio and all sorts of things. I did a whole video on YouTube, and people can actually check it out. What did I call it? It was called Content Creator Must Have. And so I did this video because people, they hit me for John Hope Bryant, my buddy. John's always like, Roland, you should do a masterclass, charge people. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I said, because I'm not interested in just now I got to sit here and sign people up. And I'm like, that's boring as hell, John. I'm not doing that. But I did this, and I did this whole thing because I just needed people to understand how these things work. And so this is it right here. I just sat at my kitchen table, and I just went through the DJ Neo, the DJI camera, the DJ Neo drone. It could do this because there are a lot of people, they're trying to figure it out. And man, I've done it. I got so much equipment. I got a FPV drone that I haven't even used yet. But I got all this sort of stuff. But it's the knowledge. And I just think it's stupid to have knowledge and have expertise and you don't share it because, okay, what's the whole purpose of hoarding it? This makes no sense. But that's just how I work. I am every day. I'm sitting here looking at this and testing this, and I'm like, all this sort of stuff like this here. So if I was doing my show, I got a pair of teleprompter right here. I got the remote control right here, and I have one for the road. I literally can have my teleprompter loaded, and now I'm on the road and I'm handling my business. But That's called being, though, a student of your craft.
I love that.
And that ties into the business of your craft, because that also impacts your bottom line. If I had to pay somebody to roll with me, I would probably be spending another $100,000+ a year if I had to have somebody travel with me to set my stuff up with all the speeches and stuff that I give. And and so by me being able to do it, I'm saving my business $100,000.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Man, so for anybody who's listening to this and not watching, you have to go to the YouTube video and see what we just saw. I highly admonish you to go look at those visuals right there. That was very inspiring. So this is a quote I found from you where you said, the most important thing we have in Black-owned media is authenticity and trust.
Yep.
We're perceived differently. They see us as family. So I want you to talk about what you mean by particularly that last line, they see us as family. Like, what does that mean? How did you learn that? And what implications does it have?
Well, that's our history. I mean, if you're a student of your business, the first newspaper was Freedom's Journal, March 16th, 1827. And in the third paragraph of their front page editorial, it said, in the third paragraph, we wish to plead our own cause, too long have others spoken for us. That's the mantra of the Black press. When you start talking about Martin Delany, when you start talking about Frederick Douglass, when you start talking about Ida B. Wells Barnett, when you talk about the Little Rock Nine, people don't understand. First of all, Daisy Bates later owned the Black newspaper. But when they were sitting here involved in the planning of that, Black-owned media was actually in the room. Mm-hmm. Like, they were in the strategy sessions. Dr. King, before Time Magazine and New York Times and NBC were covering him, he had a column in Ebony. He was always in Jet. And so there's always been this different relationship that African Americans have had with Black-owned media, because we're there when everybody else ain't there. I mean, even now, I can't even tell you how many times we travel around this country, and when we're going places and we're visiting places, and man, ain't nobody there. Local media, local mainstream ain't there. A lot of Black people not, a lot of Black media not there. We're the only ones. Bishop Barber had a huge event in D.C. a couple of years ago, and man, they had these risers, and it was all this press space. 4 of the people came. That was it. They were small media outlets: ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. None of them were there. And so those things happen on a regular basis. And so, when you are there for your people, Tom Jonah always talked about this here, and I've always said the same thing, and I totally agree with him, that when you're there for your people, they're going to be there for you. When you're showing up. So, one of the things, I remember we was in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. A brother had been shot and killed by the cops. And it was jam-packed. I mean, all this media is out there. They're all out there. And Ben Crump is holding a news conference. And everybody is sitting here covering it. Man, it was crazy. And so what happened? When it was time for the news conference, it was too funny, man. It was time for the news conference. Ben Crump was doing questions, and when it came time for questions, he went, first question, Roland.
Yeah.
Roland. We've had, and so I got, and then it was kind of like, you done? Then he went to everybody else.
Yeah.
Those things have happened in other places. A lot, but there's some Black folk who don't do that. There's some Black folks who they believe in white validation. And I remind these people, we gonna be here when they never show up.
Yeah.
So don't all of a sudden try to treat them special because they rolled up in here, because we know who was here. Ben has had clients that he's had clients where they said, no, Ben, our first interview is going to be on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now, these are clients who did not want to be a part of this exclusive fraternity and sorority of having family members killed. But on multiple occasions, they said, no, Ben, we're going to do Roland first because he covers this stuff every day.
Yeah.
And so that's what that means. And so that's been our history. The black press, black-owned media has served that role. The problem is what we have seen. We have seen this dramatic degradation and decrease in our impact. Again, a lot of black people at the end of the civil rights movement, early 70s, when white media starts hiring black people, we all of a sudden it's like, oh, now they're covering us, so now we're going to go to them. So in many cases, the consumer abandoned black-owned media. Now, when that was happening, black-owned media was not adjusting to what was going on, and so then they aided their own demise. And I've long said we're living in a period right now where we will rue the day if we don't have black-owned media. Because there's so many stories. I mean, I can't even tell you. There's stuff that I do every single day. Small stuff, big stuff, don't even get touched. We've done stuff that 3, 4, 5 weeks later, it'll show up on MSNBC or CNN. But here's what pisses me off. What pisses me off, Reese Colbert talks about this all the time. You get black folks who then will grab that clip because it was on MSNBC or a lot of prominent black people will grab that clip and post it on their Instagram page and post it on their Twitter page. And I'm going, but you didn't grab it. 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So again, those things happen. But I believe what my responsibility as a black-owned media owner, my responsibility is to give black people high quality content that is relevant, that looks good. I was at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. Procter & Gamble had this thing. It was a panel, and I was sitting on the panel. And his brother, it was Kid Capri was over here, and his brother was here. His brother here owned a barbershop salon in Cincinnati. And this is true story with that. He goes, y'all, we have got it. This is that National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. Yeah. Y'all, man, we got to support Roland Martin. This way he messed up. He goes, now y'all, it's not going to look as good as CNN. I said, wait a fucking minute.
Oh, wow.
He goes, no, bro. I said, no. I said, I need you to understand what you just said. What you just said is that we, from a look, we are second class. Mm-hmm. I said, and let me be real clear. I don't have the $1 billion in profit that CNN has. I said, but my robotic cameras are 4K. I said, I got high quality lights. I said, don't you ever say that I don't look as good as CNN.
Man, that was wild.
That is a brother. When I had my TV One show, this is wild. Yeah. This is a brother said to me. I've had a brother say this. His sister said it. Brother said, "Man, when you gonna get you your own show?" And I was like, I'm on 5 days a week. He said, no. I know about your TV One show. He said, I mean a real show.
Oh yeah, come on, man.
He said, come on CNN or one of these networks. I said, now again, I was like,
bite your tongue.
I could cuss him out. Or I can educate him. So here's what I said. I said, brother, let me ask you a question. I said, are you aware that when Brian Williams comes to DC, he sits in the same chair I do? And he looked at me. I said, there's a plexiglass table to the left, and there's a bristle brush on the bottom shelf, and there's another brush on the top shelf that white people use to comb their hair. I said, the bristle brush is mine. He's looking at me. Yeah. I said, you need to be aware. I said, the set, the walls, the camera. I said, oh, you didn't realize we contract the studio from NBC News Channel. I said, when Brian Williams comes here, they send the signal down the fiber optic lines to New York. We send ours to Denver. I said, same studio, same cameras, same lights, same background, same fiber optics. I said, but you said my show is not real. I said, so what you are telling me is because it airs on a black network, you don't think it's a real show.
Yeah.
Brother, that he was apologetic. I said this, and this is the power of white supremacy. The power of white supremacy is that it will dictate to black people that what is ours, we instinctively, we automatically, off the jump, we think it's second rate, it's second class, it's not good enough, and a white man's ice is colder. And that is the power, that is the legacy of white supremacy, and why it still has a hold on black people. And we must, and John Hope Brown always says, black people, we need, he said, we need a reboot. I say no. He says, no, we need a software upgrade. I said, no, black people need to be completely reprogrammed because we start off, we haven't even opened our mouths yet. And we automatically say, oh, he's black, she's black, and they own it. Second class. Second rate, not good enough, quality not the same. Actively Black has dealt with this.
That's right.
Show me a black company, they've had to confront this.
That's right.
But that's the conditioning of the mind of black people, and that is a result of white supremacy.
Wow. So I've been podcasting and radio long enough to see players become owners. And you think about and it's unfortunate because you're the only person I think about in this class, and that is the Glenn Becks who get fired and then go start their own network. And it's then the Tucker Carlsons who get fired and then go start. And you are the only, number one, black, but number one, more progressive person that I think about. Like, you own your stuff and you get to put other people on your platform. And so going a level deeper on that thinking that you shared some of those brothers that presented you with, what can you share, like, the economics in, okay, I got a job, I got a contract with a CNN or a Fox or et cetera, but I own this and the economics are just different.
Okay, so even when I was there, I was never, so when I was at, I was at TV1, Tom Joyner Morning Show, CNN at the same time. And I wasn't an employee of none of either one of them. I had a media company. It was a 1099. And let me explain what that is. And I've given these lectures and classes all around the world. The concept that you have to have when you are, quote, an employee is Me Inc. Is Me Inc. So whatever your name is, just put Inc. on the end. You are a walking, talking corporation. So when I was an employee, I didn't consider myself to be an employee. I saw myself as a vendor, and they were the client. So when you apply for a job, it's no different than when you respond to an RFP, a request for proposal. When you apply for a job, you say, I can do that job, and you go in, you interview. Well, RFP is the exact same process. And guess what? You get hired for the job. Well, if you get hired for the RFP, they the client, you're the vendor. Your job is to deliver a service. If they like the service, they continue the vendor-client relationship. The same thing happens when you're an employee. The difference is that when you are, quote, an employee, but you see yourself as Kim Inc. or as Dewan Inc. or whatever, is you now are looking at the landscape totally different. So when I worked at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I wanted my own equipment. Well, why did I want my own equipment? Because if anything happened with the job, then I already have my own phone, my own laptop. I have my own stuff. So when I went to the Dallas, become news director, morning anchor, the KKD radio, there were times when I was requesting stuff and they were slow to buy. So finally I was like, you know what, damn that. Because here's the other deal. If I bought it, it's also a tax write-off. And then if I leave, it goes with me. So when I took over Dallas Weekly, I remember when I left, guess what? The scanner came with me. The printer came with me. The Kodak DC-210 digital camera came with me. All my stuff came with me. And what that then did is, if anything happens, whether I quit, whether I resigned, whether I got fired, I had the tools of my craft to now be able to freelance, because there's nothing worse than losing an opportunity, losing a job. And then now you're like, damn, I don't have a laptop. I don't have a camera. I don't have my own stuff. So now I'm trying to figure it all out. And so even when I was at, when I was at CNN, when I was at TV, I remember when they told me, so I joined in 2007. So 2009, I knew I had, there was an ad agency, they rep Southwest Airlines. My man said, if CNN gives you your own show, I'm going to be the main sponsor. Mm-hmm. So I came to the table with my own sponsor. Dude, they were freaked the hell out. They never experienced that. So then all of a sudden they decided, well, we're not going to do a show. And so I remember walking out of John Klein's office, and I was 100 feet out. I called Jonathan Rogers. They're not doing it. Jonathan said, well, they're going to launch a show. They're not going to launch a show. We're going to launch a show. That was in May. We announced it at July 4th at Essence Festival. But here was the thing. You fast forward, that was 2009, 2012. I saw what was going on. No, after 2009. I said, oh, they are never going to give me my own show at CNN. I said, CNN has now become my personal venture capitalist. So let me explain that.
Right.
So here I am as a contributor at CNN. I'm getting paid $283,000. Okay. So I said, okay, CNN is going to start funding my other stuff. So CNN ends April 2013. I had the same thing at TV One. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew my vision was bigger than the folks at TV One. They were slow. They were not moving. So I started buying my own equipment. I was doing that when I was at CNN even before. So going back to Dallas Weekly, going back to the Fort Worth Telegram. So since the second job of my career, I've been buying my own equipment. So I started buying my own stuff. So bought this camera. I bought this light. I bought this mic. Now I'm just adding stuff to it. So check this out. We're at TV One, and every time we had to shoot anything in the city or out, we had to go through this outside production company. Well, there was some small stuff that we needed to shoot. I was like, damn. So I said, okay, I bought my own, I bought my Canon XA25. So I then went, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I said, if we shoot, I said, I'm gonna let y'all use my equipment. But, so I'm not gonna charge you a kit fee. But if my equipment is used, I gotta co-own the content. Now the person listening or watching may go, man, why in the hell would you not charge them? Because the content was more valuable than the kit fee. Yeah. Because the content now goes in my library. I can use that in perpetuity. So all of a sudden, I'm sitting here. So if you watch my Frankie Beverly and Mays, my Frankie Beverly Mays special at TV One, every piece of B-roll and every photo in that special came from my personal archives. Wow. I co-own that content. So I can restream that sucker as many times as I want to, and I don't have to ask TV One for permission to do that. So I was thinking ahead of understanding. And so as I'm building this thing, now I'm acquiring my own equipment. So they canceled my show December 2017. January 30th, we do a thing called the State of Our Union. I call a black church in DC. Within 30 seconds, the pastor said yes. So when we do it, guess what? I already have my cameras. I already have my lights. I already had my switcher. It was a couple of things I had to buy, but I wasn't trying to go rent some stuff, because for 5 and 6 years, I had been methodically buying. And so that's the mentality that you have to have when you're doing stuff. And so now your focus is different. Now you see things differently. Now when you're there, you're like, okay, how much is this and how much is that? The other thing is this here. I think when I buy equipment, I'm thinking multi-purpose, not single purpose. But if I get that, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Now the purchase makes some sense. And so that's the problem for a lot of people who don't understand when you make the shift to owning, you now have to think completely different. And you also have to learn to tell yourself no. People came to me and they were like, oh man, listen, that Canon C300, oh yes, that's an amazing camera. But the body and the lens is $20,000. Mm-hmm. I need 3 cameras. I said, and I don't have 20 grand to buy 3 cameras. So you got to learn how to tell yourself no. So I started, our remote equipment was 3 Canon XA25s. Gave me HD, had 2 XLR outlets. It gave me everything I needed, had SDI out, gave me everything I needed to broadcast.
Yeah.
Now what happened 3 years later? I bought 3 Canon C300s. What happened 6 months later? I bought 2 more Canon C300s. So today I own 5 Canon C300s, a Canon C70, a Canon C80, 2 Blackmagic cameras, and also a Canon D90. I had to tell folk no at the beginning stages to build to a certain level, and that's the other thing a lot of us do. Many of us, we want to come out flossing. We want to come out, oh man, we looking good. We want to come out with all this stuff. Listen, that stuff don't mean a damn thing if you in business for 1 year. All you said, oh man, we had a great 1 year run. I'd rather say, no, we had a 10, 20, 30, 40 year run.
Yeah.
And that's how your thinking has to be different.
And there's so much more I wanted to get to. I'll do one last question and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
I'll put the 2 questions I wanted to ask into one. I think I can do that. So I was at dinner a couple of nights ago with some very established brothers, black men, physicians, attorneys, etc. And I remember one of them saying that they were advising their son to not be vocal about what's going on in this landscape. And another one at the table was like, well, this is the time they need to be vocal. We need our young people to be vocal because revolutions have always started with young people. And so I'm going to pair that question. What's your thoughts on that? How should we be showing up today with this landscape that we live in? And I'm going to pair that with what advice would you give to someone who wants to build their own media platform, particularly for our community?
All right, so the first thing is, how much you are vocal is based upon what you're doing. There were people who were critical of Diane Carroll and other African Americans in Hollywood. Dr. King said, stop. Diane Carroll and Sidney Poitier are serving a purpose for our community. Let them keep doing what they are doing. Diane Carroll was hosting private fundraisers at her New York apartment and in LA that was funding the movement. Diane Carroll wasn't on the front lines like Dick Gregory was, like Harry Belafonte was. Dick Gregory at his height gave up making millions of dollars a year to go towards the movement. That was his personal decision. Harry Belafonte, Mr. B, loved him dearly. We were friends for 12 years, his last 12 years of his life. We would talk all the time and text and have lunch and dinner. This is what he wrote in his own book. He said he saw how the federal government broke Paul Robeson by snatching his passport, preventing him from earning a living. He said, and he died, almost broke. Mr. B said, I wasn't going to do that. So he structured his business where he owned his content. So therefore, the federal government couldn't do to Mr. B what they did to Paul Robeson. So he learned from it. So I would say to a person, first and foremost, if you have a job where speaking out, and speaking out happens on different levels, okay? I think there are a lot of people who are speaking out who should shut up. Now, let me just be real clear. Because your job may not allow those things, but you can help the movement in other ways. See, everybody is not supposed to speak out. Everybody is not supposed to march. Everybody's not supposed to be in front. What you have to figure out is, okay, how can I be of value to the cause? And being of value you might be an inside player in your corporation and you let those externally do what they do. People tell me, man, you ain't no activist. I'm not. I'm a journalist. Because somebody got to cover what the activists do. See, that's what people don't understand. And so you have to decide, what role do I play? Some folk could just say, man, I'm going to go do my job, but I'm going to fund the stuff.
Yeah.
Other folks say, you know what? I'm going to do my job. I'm gonna make phone calls. And so your role can be different. The last piece is this: we're talking about there's somebody out there, they want to be an owner. And I get this all the time. Young people come up to me and they say, man, I want to do what you do. And this is exactly what I say. But do you want to do what I do? Then they look at me. I say, when you say you want to do what I do, 99% what that means is they want the selfies.
Yeah.
They want to be recognized. They want to be able to call celebrities on their cell phones. I said, but the work made that happen. The work that I put in made that happen. I'm like, you can't want what I do or do what I do if you don't want to put in the work that I put in. So that's the work ethic. That's knowing your business. That's and understanding and studying your craft. That's sitting here saying, man, let me learn this. Let me learn 3-point lighting. Let me understand what's too much headroom in a shot. Let me understand how this camera works. I'm sitting here, man, this camera that I'm sitting here right now, this is like a 15-year-old Sony camera that's still spot on. And let me tell you something, when I got this camera, this is what I set the camera down and I grabbed the manual, which is like foreign to a whole bunch of millennials, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because folk want to be able to Google everything or go to YouTube, but you can't do that. You know why? Because when you're out there in the field and all of a sudden that sucker don't work and you got one bar on your phone, you can't YouTube it. And so if you don't have an intimate relationship with that camera where you understand, why am I not getting audio? What's happening here? Because you didn't read the manual. And so still, even to this day, I get a piece of equipment, I'm sitting here looking at it, learning this piece, what can it all do? And so I'm learning. Maya Angelou said, well, she did an interview, she said, asked her, she said, I don't call myself a Christian because she says, because if I do, that means I've learned everything I need to know what it means to be a Christian. She said, she said, so I'm constantly learning and evolving. And it's sort of the same thing. I will never, ever learn everything I need to know about this business, in front of the camera and behind in the business. But my goal every day is to learn something today that I didn't know yesterday that I can apply tomorrow. And that's what people need to do. There are too many people who love the content. Man, content's easy. My wife always tells me, she said, you got to stop saying that. But no, it's a plethora of content. The issue is, how do you monetize it? Which now means study the business of the business. And so that's what people have to do. And I just think too many people, and I'll just give you this last example. I launched in 2018. These white guys with the recount did the same, Holloman, some other cats. They raised $32 million. They shut down in December 2022. They sold their Twitter handle for pennies on the dollar. They raised $32 million. And in 5 years, they never figured out their business plan. And the only asset they had was a 300,000 person Twitter handle. That's all they had. I launched this business the same year with $350,000 of my own money and one sponsor that was $250,000, and have grown it. And we still here 7 years later because I love the content. I love all of that. But if I did not study the business model, if I did not pay attention to the money coming in and the money going out, if I spent money on stupid stuff that did not yield a return, if I was not telling myself no or telling staff no, we can't afford that right now, then we wouldn't still be here. That's the greatest lesson that people have to learn. You have to study your business.